Hi, this is Janet Raftis, and every Tuesday at 5:15 I do an intuitive check-in where I talk about something that one of my clients has sent to me or something that I've seen come up quite a bit that has to do with using your intuition or your spiritual connection. And so for this week, I've had a lot of people in my Everyday Spirituality program and a couple other clients that have reached out and said to me, you know, I really want to connect with these energies. I want to connect with my guides. I want to connect with goddesses. I want to connect with ascended masters. How do I do this? And so the process is several-fold, but what I can tell you is that when we set an intention to start working with our guides and we take practical and consistent steps to do so, we will start to notice and sense that experience, that connection. And it is, for some of you, it will come super easy, and for some of you, it will take a little longer. There is no right or wrong. So some of us connect easily with guides. Some of us are super clairvoyant. Some of us connect with dead people. Some of us read auras. We all have different gifts. So even if you don't feel like, you know, even if you struggle with this, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. If connecting with your guides is something that you feel is difficult for you, my advice is to stick with it and to use some of the practical tools that I'm going to talk about today to help you with that connection. So, the first thing is that we all have guides. All of us have guides. We have guides that came with us when we decided to come into body, when we decided to take physical form. We worked with a group of spiritual guides who we contracted with on a soul level, basically, to be with us. And so we have a life guide, we have a career guide, we have a relationship guide, we have several different types of guides. What I've noticed is that we typically have, 1 to 3 guides that are with us a lot. One that is with us from the time of our conception, essentially until our time of death. A few others that are with us most of the time, sometimes all of the time. And then we have some that come and go. And one thing that I love about working with guides is that we can call in our team. We can figure out and work very actively with any spiritual entity that we choose to work with, and we can call them in and we can connect with them. We can get to know the ones that are with us. We can choose new ones. We can strengthen our team. We can work with angels. We can work with ascended masters. We can do whatever we want. Hey Vanessa, it's good to see you, and everyone who has hopped on today. Thank you. I am using my phone today instead of my computer, so it's a little bit different for me. So if I look like I'm looking out into outer space, it's because I'm not accustomed to where the lens is. So I'm with you though. So when we connect with our guides, something that is, like I said, for some of us, it will be super easy. For some of us, it will take a little bit longer. There's no right or wrong. They want to connect with us. And one of the things that's important to remember is that they're always communicating with us. So even if we're not catching some of the subtle messages, they're there. They're working with us. They're listening to us. They're eager to connect with us, and they're eager to support us. And so even if you are not aware of their presence initially, every time that you talk to them, every time that you ask them for support, every time you ask them for a sign, they are delivering on that. So as you enter into that conscious communication with them, even if you don't notice something at first, what you will start to notice is you will start to notice the signs. You will start to feel the connection more. It's kind of like building a muscle. It's being consistent in the work, and it's showing up, and it's having the intention, and it's holding the energy. And as we do that with anything, anytime we give our attention to anything, it grows. And it's the same with guides. So you might start by asking, show me a sign that you're there. And you can work with your guides to determine what that might be, or you can just be open to knowing. So if you're like, I want to know who my life guide is, but you're having trouble sensing the energy, you can ask to get signs, and you will tend to notice when the signs come in. There will be a feeling that you get when you get them. So let's say you ask for the sign, and then you come across something that is like, you know, you're reading something and it's like a headline and it's like your guidance is right with you, and then right after that you see the name Angelique and you're like, oh, Angelique, that rings a bell. And then, like, you know, the next day you start seeing angels everywhere. You know, it's like that. It's like sometimes we just need to be awake and aligned and in connection with our guides and asking them to provide us with the answers and the support, and they will show us. So if we ask for the dialogue, if we ask for the signs, it will come. Now, beyond that, if you want to go a little deeper, sometimes when we meditate, it can be possible to connect with them. Sometimes it will take a little while. So I say that. One of the reasons is that our guides are really close to us. Their energies are always with us. And so sometimes it can actually even be hard to discern because you're so accustomed to the energy that you may not even notice that it's separate from you. So that's one thing to be aware of. The other thing is that sometimes we're just not accustomed to reading that type of subtle energy. The guides are working with you. Know and trust that, and know and trust that it will come in perfect time for you. That said, you can go into meditation. You can drop into your body to where you can really feel your body. So I've found that when we do work like this, instead of going into the upper chakras, I mean, you're going to go into your upper chakras. You are in the meditation, but instead of trying to put all of our energy up into there, it's like bringing it into our body and grounding into our body and starting the meditation from an embodied place. And I say that because, and a lot of you have heard me talk about this over and over again in these Facebook Lives and in workshops and retreats and so forth and so on. When we're in our body, we can sense and discern what is real and what is true. And when we're up here, our head can often get in the way. We might start to judge or question the information. So opening our upper chakras to go up, but also being in our body to notice the subtle distinctions of energy. So if we go into a meditation and we ask for our guide to make himself or herself known to us, and then we just be quiet, we breathe, and we just be present to what's happening and notice the subtle changes around you. You might get chills, you might get warm, you might feel a difference on your right side to your left side. You could ask to be shown something, and you just let whatever image comes to you come to you, and take it as what it is. Like if you say, you know, show me a sign about who you are, and then you see an angel, and just to refer back to the Angelique example, if you see an angel, then that's a clue to you, and trust that, you may not have the whole picture, but you have a piece of the puzzle, and you can continue to get more and more information from that. Now, we have our guides that are always with us, right? Now we also, and sometimes those are people who have crossed over, and sometimes they are not. It is not super common for people to cross over to be our guides, but it does happen quite a bit. Again, everybody has a different team, but just know that it could be that your grandmother is always with you, and it might not be. It might be that she pops in and out. It might be that she's off doing something else. So your guides, everybody's type of group of guides will be different. We can also call in angels, ascended masters, spiritual beings to be with us and to be our guides. I know some people who have archangels that are like primary guides that are with them all the time. One of my clients, Metatron, is with her basically all the time. He's one of her primary guides. And that's not necessarily, you know, normal for most of us. It is normal for some of us, but not all of us. I work a lot with archangels. I call them in on an as-needed basis typically. As needed can mean like every time I do a Facebook Live, I call in Archangel Gabriel to be with me, because Archangel Gabriel helps with communication. And so and her energy is calming to me. So she's perfect for me for Facebook Lives. So I call her in to be with me while I'm doing Facebook Lives, or anytime I have to have a hard conversation or make a tough phone call or whatever it might be, where I might typically not feel confident or want a little boost of support in my communication. I call in Archangel Raphael a lot for my healing sessions. I call in Jesus a lot for my healing sessions. They're both master healers. If I'm working, work with goddess energy a lot. And so I might call in, like if I'm doing intention setting, I'll often call in Artemis. and when I do that, I allow myself to, one way is that I do meditations. I do that for myself. I also do it with my clients and in groups and circles that I lead. And my experience is that even my clients who might sometimes struggle with connecting with their guides, when they're in a guided meditation situation, they do feel the energy. And so it might be helpful for you if you really want to connect with the energy of, you know, a certain goddess. You might be able to find a guided meditation that will facilitate that for you, or find a meditation that will help you to connect with your guides. Again, knowing and trusting that however it unfolds for you is perfectly right for you, and that your journey will be different than everybody else's. But that said, if you choose that you want to work with someone, if you want to call somebody in, if you need something, all you have to do is ask, and that spiritual being will be with you. Our spiritual counterparts, our guides, and our angels and the Ascended Masters, they want to help us. They are out there to help us. That is one of their soul contracts, right? Is to help people like us to thrive and expand and succeed in our lives. So you can assemble whatever team you want. You know, you can work with dragons, you can work with fairies, you can work with mermaids, you can work with animals. Everybody I have found has spirit animal guides as well. And, you know, some people who have really strong connections to Native American traditions, or who are animal or nature empaths, tend to have a lot of animal spirits around them. And it works really just the same way as any others, is that you can just be with that energy, be present to the energy, allow yourself to go into that meditation, call that energy to you, and actively work with it. And if you have an altar, which I'm a huge advocate of altars for sacred space in your home, one thing that I find very helpful is to put something on the altar that will help you connect with that energy, and that, you know, every time that you go to your altar, you'll be reminded of that connection. And it's just like getting to know anybody else. You know, we nurture these relationships, and that's how it is with our guides as well. So I think that is what I wanted to say. Mostly, you know, this is something that, like I said, for some people it's super easy, for some it takes a little bit longer. You know, it is something that I cover in my workshops and classes. And so for those of you in Atlanta who want to really deep dive into connecting with your guides, at my Activate Your Superpowers workshop at Forum Yoga in Decatur on February 3rd and 4th, we will be dedicating a good amount of time to connecting with guides and how to nurture that connection and go deeper into it. And it's a really super fun thing to work with, and it's a really fun thing to do in group, and especially in circle. It's fabulous. So that's one way you could dive deeper, but this is also something that you can really practice from your home. You know, it might take a little longer, but if that's your, you know, if you feel like that's your journey and that's your path, then that's what's right for you. And when I answer questions, if any of you guys have questions, so I'm just gonna scroll and see if anybody has had one so far. And I'll give you all a moment to to think of one if you do have one. I know that working with guides and spiritual beings has been a huge part of my growth, because I really ask to be guided all the time. I really ask to be shown what I need to know, and I use that along with my inner wisdom, with my own intuition. You know, I get the information, I connect with the people, the spiritual beings, the people who are experts in the field that I'm working with. And it's just so enriching, and it's helped me in so many ways. You know, when I was really lost on my path and how to do this, how to make it, how to find clients, how to succeed in this business, I worked a lot with Archangels Michael and Chamuel, because Archangel Michael helps you with your divine purpose, and Archangel Chamuel helps you to find things. I actually work with Archangel Chamuel all the time when I lose things. So Melissa's asking, do you ever see your guides, or do you just know they are there in spirit? So, and then Vanessa, I see yours too. So I sometimes see them, and sometimes it's just a knowingness, and it really will vary from person to person. People who are highly clairvoyant will see their guides. People who are not so clairvoyant will probably get the information in different ways. So a lot of times I get the information through my claircognizance, which is clear knowing. I might see something, I might see it in my mind's eye with my eyes closed, but a lot of times I just know what it looks like. I know it's a man, and I know he's wearing something, so forth and so on. And then sometimes I have a feeling, I just feel the energy there. Oh, especially with angels. Like angels, I always feel immediately, my whole body will get warm and I'll know that there's an angel there. So trust whatever your intuitive gifts are, whatever they are is how you will get the information for yourself. Vanessa is asking, how can I know if it's an actual message versus my imagination? So intuition and imagination are very, very similar, and this is a really great question. Now, when you get an intuitive hit, it tends to come in like this. It's like something's there, or you're asking to connect with your guide, and you're like, oh my God, I see a man, and he's wearing a white robe, and blah, blah, blah. Like, you probably, most of the time what I see is not what I would have imagined. It's completely different than what I would have thought of for that person. So trust what comes in. Imagination tends to, like with the intuitive hit, you get the hit and it's there and you know it's there. Whether you're seeing it or knowing it or feeling it, you'll know it's there. With imagination, it's like you're kind of spinning your wheels with it. You're like, oh, and it's like you're making up a story in your head. Whereas with intuition, it feels clean, if that makes sense. And also, I found a lot asking the question of like, is that really what I would have thought of? When I first started, I asked that question a lot. And then you will just start to get validation of it. So you can ask your guides if you're like, okay, I don't know if that was real. That may have been just my imagination. You can ask for confirmation. So let's say your guide shows up and your guide is holding a pink rose and you're like, that's crazy. That's my imagination. I don't believe it. Or I don't know if I believe it. And ask. Show me signs. You know, I want to know that I can really trust this information. So if you say that and then 2 hours later you show up to lunch with your friend and she's brought you a pink rose, that's confirmation for you. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's see. So we can call on anyone to assist with giving us information. Yes, Elena, anyone. You know, one of the things that's great about kind of studying this stuff a little bit is that you can, so let's say you're working on, let's say you're working with compassion. You're like, I really want to be more compassionate. And then you might look up Ascended Master who helps with compassion. And you might come up with Kuan Yin, and then you might call her in to help you with it, right? And you might learn a little bit about Kuan Yin and work with her energy some. So I've found that just kind of even sometimes, I mean, a lot of what I learned because I was like, I want to work on this. What should, you know, who should I connect with to do it? And that just has become an automatic thing for me. And all of those, anyone that, the archangels, the ascended masters, your guides, they will all help you, even extraterrestrials. I mean, Scott called in Ave, an extraterrestrial, and started channeling him, and Ave helps him all the time now. He's one of his guides, and it's an amazing thing. So it really can be anyone. I know it is exciting. Thanks, Melissa. Do you have any books or resources you recommend about which angels or archangels specialize in what? Yes, Tina, that's a really good one. Doreen Virtue has written, I mean, she's like the queen of angels, and she wrote a book called The Angel Therapy Handbook. And I think that that is a really good starting point to work with angels and archangels. It gives you a lot of tools, and it shares on all of the archangels and tells you what their main purposes are. It's very easy to read too and easy to follow. Jill, I have been doing my core emotional work for about 1.5 years now, and I haven't noticed a deeper connection to my guides. I thought that by doing the emotional work, it deepens your connection. Oops. I can't read the last part of it. It's not showing up on my screen, but Jill, it will. It will. Now, it may not necessarily, so what happens typically in the core emotional healing work is that you start to unpack a lot of stuff that is in the way of your intuition. because unresolved trauma, unresolved chronic stress, unexpressed emotions will all stand in the way. They will it gets too crowded for your intuition to come in, and it's hard to trust it. So as you unpack that, you will notice that your intuition will you will become more aligned intuitively. And I've seen it happen a lot. It may be that it may not be that it is your guides, like per se. You may not, let me rephrase this. It may be your guides, but you may not know that it's your guides. Stick with it. Be patient and compassionate with yourself. And let me see. And take the time without knowing, the whole story. I would say really set a firm intention, and it might be something you could journal about. And this is a great recommendation for anyone, is you can journal and ask yourself the question, is there something standing in the way of me? What is getting in the way of me sensing the presence of my guides? What is it that I need to clear? Are there any fears or limiting beliefs that are standing in my way? Does that make sense? And so I think sometimes through that we can start to take a look at, there might be a fear, there might be a past life block. There are a lot of things that can stand in the way of us feeling the connection more strongly. But again, the connection is always there. Our guides are always with us. It is more a matter of us tuning into and understanding and being able to translate their vibration. And that is the work with the subtle energy that takes time and persistence and diligence and sometimes deeper work, like sometimes deeper, a deeper learning process. Emily says, I used to think this was nuts until it happened to me. I know, Emily. It's so funny. I've shared this story with some of you who have been in retreats and workshops before, but I totally was not a believer in angels at all. Like, I started doing Reiki and I was like, oh, okay, so there is a God. Like, I feel the presence of God, but angels are stupid. Like, that is such a crazy thing. Like, there is no way they're angels. My Reiki master, like, I love her, but she's just bonkers because she thinks that. And then I was like in the middle of a healing session, and out of the blue, I had felt this huge presence come into the room. It was like boom, and the temperature went up about 10 degrees, and I started sweating, and I was like, oh my God, that is Archangel Michael. That is Archangel Michael. He's here in my room, and I was wrong, and there are angels. Not only are there angels, but there is one here with me right now. It was a really beautiful experience also. I really loved it. Lauren is saying she's having a lot of trouble with subtle. It is because detecting the subtle energies requires that we get very still and that we calm our minds and that we be present to us. And that's the practice. Like, that's the most consistent practice in it, is really getting to that still point. And then as you become more comfortable in that still point, it gets easier and easier to tune into them. Emily, that's funny. You have the same experience. And Melissa's saying that she had an experience like that too. Yes, it very well could have been angels. And I've noticed that different spiritual beings show up with different physical sensations for me. Sometimes it's heat, sometimes it's chills and heat at the same time. So anyway, just be aware, like, when you notice changes in the environment like that, like, what's going on? Like, I don't see anything, but I'm feeling something, and that's something. We just haven't been trained to really validate all that external information for ourselves. We've been like, that was weird. And then we move on with the rest of our day, when a lot of times that thing that was weird, like the lights flickering or the temperature fluctuation or the thing we saw out of the corner of our eye or whatever it was actually one of our guides communicating with us. So thank you all so much. This was fun. I love talking about guides. Tracy, yes, it will. That's really funny. Yes. So, yes, if you guys want to dive deeper with me, I would love to see you at my workshop here in Atlanta, or on one of my retreats, or in a class, or anything that I do. And also, I'm so grateful that I'm able to provide you guys with some insights through these these Facebook Lives. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Melissa. I love you guys, and I will see you all next week. Have a great week. Bye.